What are the opportunities with these new brands in terms of being new buyers, being in the marketplace?
I mean, we certainly think that there's a pretty big opportunity. We started looking into this. Actually, it sort of came out of a NewFront 2 years ago, where we started realizing that a lot of our companies are actually, the media companies are going direct to consumer. You could pretty easily today start an OTT network and find an audience and monetize that content if you want to, and then you have, again, much more direct connection with the consumer. You get more data. You have more kind of two-way connection with that audience, and we thought that was interesting. So we started looking more and more into it, and we've also had for years questions around, the ad revenue number and the fact that there are two companies that kind of control most of the revenue. So kind of in parallel with starting to observing this phenomenon in the media industry, we started looking into those numbers and what they actually were. And what we found was that a large chunk of that revenue is coming from smaller brands that our members aren't necessarily even targeting. They're not buying media through an agency. They think very differently about media, about community, about conversations with different audiences and their customers. And they have their own data that they want to put to use. And as we started looking into those companies, we understood that there's a huge untapped opportunity here. They like media, they're digitally native, and they're all about creating experience and community that you need media for. So we did this big piece of research that we released here at ALM last year, second iteration this year, looking at the behaviors of these brands, their needs, their wants, their future aspirations, their media planning and buying, which is not just Facebook and Instagram. They buy a lot of TV, they buy a lot of audio and podcasts, a lot of out of home, a lot of traditional digital advertising, whatever you may call it, but they have a very different perspective on it. So what we did is release a large piece of research that describes this, and we also released something we call the IAB 250, which are the 250 brands that you need to watch and need to know about. And that's a list of, really a prospect list potentially for a lot of our members. These are companies you can go out after who have, very healthy businesses and are very interested in advertising. These companies also have a lot to learn from the IAB. We're a truly digitally native trade association. We understand this world. A lot of these companies are actually producing content themselves, so the line is blurring a little bit between what's a publisher and what is an advertiser. And therefore we've decided to, which was the other big news here, to bring brands in as members into the IAB, so brands can take part in all of the work that we're doing here and learn and contribute. And it's not just direct brands, it's also traditional brands, because traditional brands will have a little bit of a harder time transforming into completely digital organizations, but they have to do it, and they have a lot to learn from these digitally native direct brands, as we call them.
Anna, so you guys just announced the NewFronts for this coming spring.
So it's very exciting. It's a fixture in the upfront calendar and one of the biggest events in media on our side. And we have some really interesting newcomers this year in Ellen and Voodoo, and then we have a solid lineup for the rest of the week. So yeah, very excited about that.
So I know it's a little hard to say what the themes are, and they're kind of generated by the presenters, but what do you hope to see? What do you think particularly the buying community wants to see from the presenters this year?
I think they want to continue to see really, really great content. I personally think that we're in the golden age of television, for lack of a better word, or video. I'm hoping that we'll see a lot of great OTT content. I think we'll see quite a bit of podcasting. It isn't the Digital Video NewFronts, it's the Digital Content NewFronts. So I think we'll see other forms of content as well. Podcast was pretty big last year. I think it's going to be big this year again. I think we'll have more conversations around branded content and activations that brand can do with publishers throughout the year. And then I think that, because we are in the era of GDPR and California Consumer Protection Act, there will be conversations about brand safety and targeting and just how you can be more effective in a world where we really have to put the consumer in center.
And finally, video. You've spoken about it for a number of years. It's very exciting. It's a big part of the show this year in a big way. What are your hopes in terms of advanced TV and the IAB's role?
Well, we have a lot of work to do in that front. I mean, it's a very promising area. Most of our members are very interested in it. I think the IAB can play a very central role. First of all, just defining what that marketplace is. We surveyed our members a while back ago on the definition of OTT, and I think we got 27 answers back. And we really have to figure that out because it's going to be very hard to buy if we're not talking about the same thing. So I think defining and creating guidelines around those definitions is important for the IAB. Improving measurement is as important as it ever was. And then of course, just showcasing all the great creative out there, both when it comes to ads and activations, but also the great content that really kind of lives in that ecosystem when it comes to show content, etc.